The first beauty influencer in history didn't have Instagram. She didn't film a single tutorial. She never endorsed a product. And she died over 400 years ago. But her face rewrote the beauty rules for an entire nation. And she did it on purpose. This is the story of Queen Elizabeth I. And the mask she convinced a whole country to believe in. Thousands of women copied her pale skin. They copied her red lips, her hairstyles, her gowns, even the colors she wore. This wasn't celebrity culture, not in the way we think of it today. It was something much more powerful and much more deliberate. If you've ever looked at one of Elizabeth's famous portraits, you've probably noticed the same thing. She never seems to age. The skin is impossibly smooth. The lips are perfectly red. There isn't a wrinkle in sight. It's almost as if time simply stopped. But here's the secret hidden inside those paintings. By the end of Elizabeth's reign, many of her official portraits no longer showed her real face. They showed the face England was supposed to believe belonged to its queen. Historians call it the mask of youth. I think it was something else as well, one of the earliest examples of personal branding ever created. And once that image escaped the walls of the royal court, it did something no one could have predicted. It convinced an entire generation of women that beauty had a new face. So how did that happen? How did one woman become the beauty standard for a nation? The answer begins with a disease that almost killed England's queen. In 1562, Queen Elizabeth I came frighteningly close to dying. She contracted smallpox, one of the deadliest diseases of the 16th century. It killed thousands of people every year, and those who survived were often left with permanent scars. Against the odds, Elizabeth recovered. But history may have been changed forever. Most historians believe the illness left at least some scarring on her face, although no one knows exactly how severe it was. There are no photographs, no medical records, only contemporary accounts and the portraits that followed. Imagine the pressure for a moment. You're not just recovering from a life-threatening illness. You're the queen. Every ambassador studies your face. Every noblewoman watch what you wear. Every rumor about your health becomes political news. Your face isn't private anymore. It's part of the stability of an entire kingdom. Imagine carrying the weight of an entire kingdom every time someone looked at you. So, what would you do? Many historians believe Elizabeth turned to Venetian ceruse, a white cosmetic made from lead carbonate mixed with vinegar. It produced the pale complexion that European society admired and may have helped disguise scars and uneven skin. Today we know repeated exposure to lead can be dangerous. Elizabeth didn't. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Most documentaries stop at the lead makeup. They tell you Elizabeth poisoned herself for beauty. That's dramatic. But I don't think it's the most fascinating part of the story. Most documentaries stop at the lead makeup. They tell you Elizabeth poisoned herself for beauty. That's dramatic. But it's also a distraction. Because makeup doesn't change history. Images do. As the years passed, something strange began happening. Elizabeth's official portraits looked less and less like a woman growing older. Wrinkles disappeared. Her complexion became impossibly smooth. Her lips stayed vividly red. The queen who appeared in those paintings seemed untouched by illness, untouched by time itself. Was that really what Elizabeth looked like? Or was England being shown something else entirely? That question matters far more than whether she wore lead. Because once those portraits left the palace, they carried more than the queen's likeness. They carried an idea that would quietly redefine beauty for an entire generation. And once that idea took hold, women didn't just admire Elizabeth, they started becoming her. Now here's the fascinating part. Elizabeth never stood in front of a crowd and declared, "This is what beauty should look like." She never wrote a beauty guide. She never endorsed a cosmetic. And this is where influence becomes fascinating. Nobody had to tell people what beauty looked like anymore. Why? Because influence doesn't always come from what people say. Sometimes it comes from what they represent. Imagine arriving at the royal court for the first time. You step into a room filled with England's wealthiest and most powerful families. Every noblewoman is dressed in magnificent fabrics. Pearls shimmer in the candlelight. Rich silks sweep across polished floors. And then the queen enters. She is unlike anyone you've ever seen. Her skin appears almost luminous. Her lips are a vivid red. Her gowns sparkle with pearls, gold thread, and jewels. Every detail has been chosen with extraordinary care. Nothing about her appearance is accidental. The pearls symbolize purity. The white complexion suggests nobility and refinement. Her magnificent clothing projects wealth, stability, and royal authority before she even says a word. Now ask yourself this: if the most admired woman in England looked like that, wouldn't you begin to wonder if beauty looked like that too? That's exactly what happened. Women at court began adopting the Queen's style. They imitated her hairstyles, her clothing, and the pale complexion that had become part of her identity. Cosmetic recipes circulated among wealthy households, while dressmakers recreated fashions inspired by the royal court. No one issued instructions. No one needed to. People naturally imitate those they admire, and admiration quietly became imitation. But what started inside the palace didn't stay there. Portraits of Elizabeth traveled across England. They hung in the homes of nobles, appeared in public buildings, and were copied again and again by artists. For many people, these paintings were the only version of the Queen they would ever see. Think about that for a moment. If every official image showed the same flawless face, how long before that face stopped looking like the Queen and started looking like beauty itself? That's the moment Elizabeth's influence became something much bigger than fashion. It became an ideal, and once an ideal takes hold, it's remarkably difficult to let it go. But there was one final piece of the puzzle. If Elizabeth's image was so powerful, how did it stay so perfect for more than 40 years? As Elizabeth grew older, her official portraits became less realistic and more symbolic. Art historians call this the mask of youth, a style of portraiture that showed the Queen with smooth skin, youthful features, and an almost timeless appearance, even as she entered her 60s. Time moved forward. Her portraits didn't. And that wasn't simply artistic imagination. In 1596, the Privy Council took the extraordinary step of restricting poor quality and inaccurate portraits of the Queen. Artists were expected to work from approved patterns that presented Elizabeth as beautiful, dignified, and majestic. Think about that for a second. England wasn't just protecting its monarch. It was protecting her image. The Elizabeth that most people knew wasn't necessarily the woman herself. It was the version the Crown wanted the country to believe. Does that sound familiar? Today, celebrities have photographers, publicists, image consultants, professional lighting, photo editing, carefully curated social media feeds. Elizabeth had court painters, different tools, exactly the same goal: to control the story people told themselves every time they looked at her. And perhaps that's the most remarkable part of all. Elizabeth never sold a face cream. She never launched a cosmetics line. She never profited from women copying her appearance. But others certainly did. Apothecaries sold skin whiteners. Merchants sold fabrics inspired by court fashion. Dressmakers recreated royal styles. Cosmetic recipes spread from one household to another, promising women a complexion worthy of the Queen herself. For the first time, beauty wasn't simply something you admired. It became something women were made to feel broke without. And isn't that the promise we've been hearing ever since? Look a little more like her, and perhaps your life will look a little more like hers too. 500 years have passed. The crowns have changed. The portraits have become phone screens. But the message has barely changed at all. The most powerful beauty standard in England wasn't created by a makeup product. It was created by a carefully managed image. And once millions of people believed that image represented perfection, they began chasing it, without ever asking who had decided what perfection looked like in the first place. So, was Queen Elizabeth I the world's first beauty influencer? In many ways, yes. Not because she sold products, not because she told women what to wear, but because millions of people came to believe that her face represented the ideal. And that's exactly how influence works. It doesn't force us to change. It quietly persuades us that we want to. But here's the question I can't stop thinking about. If Elizabeth hadn't been queen, would her face ever have become the standard of beauty? Probably not, because beauty standards aren't born in a vacuum. Someone creates them, someone repeats them, and eventually, the rest of us start believing they were always there. That's the real story hidden inside Elizabeth's portraits. They weren't simply paintings. They were advertisements for an ideal. Not an advertisement for a cosmetic, but for a way a woman was expected to look. 500 years later, we're still surrounded by those advertisements, only now they're on our phones instead of palace walls. We scroll past hundreds of carefully curated faces every day. Perfect lighting, perfect skin, perfect angles, perfect lives. We know they're curated, we know they're edited, we know they don't show the whole truth, and yet, part of us still compares. Part of us still wonders why our skin doesn't look like that, why our lives don't look like that. why we don't look enough. That's what makes Elizabeth's story feel so modern. The tools have changed. Human nature hasn't. We still admire beauty. We still imitate beauty. And somewhere along the way, we still confuse visibility with perfection. Maybe that's why history matters. Not because it tells us women once wore lead on their faces, but because it reminds us that beauty standards have always been created by people with influence, which means they can also be questioned. They can be challenged, and, if we choose, they can be rejected. Thank you for watching The Beauty Lie. If this episode made you look at history, and perhaps your own reflection, a little differently, I'd love to have you join me for the next investigation. Remember to click the subscribe button not to miss out on any new episodes.